My name is Heidi Leitzke. I'm an artist and an educator and a gallery director. I live in Lancaster, Pennsylvania with my husband and my son, and I work at Millersville University of Pennsylvania. My background is in painting. I have my MFA from Western Carolina University, which is in this region here near Azule. I primarily make thread paintings, which is a combination of thin washes of acrylic paint with densely stitched thread. And I also make a lot of works on paper using gouache and colored pencil and ink and different water-based materials. My work is rooted in observation of nature, but I'm not usually trying to get an exact likeness of what I'm seeing. I'm kind of mixing and matching and trying to get more of like a spirit of aliveness that I find in nature. And lately I've really been trying to tap into what makes a place particular and kind of paint how I feel when I'm in a particular place, and kind of using that as finding this connection to the landscape, which a lot of people I think come to find care for the earth and like sustainability through love of one particular location. And so that's something I'm starting to think about as well.
Can you talk about a foundation of your inspiration? Is there a most influential person, book?
Okay. I really first started to make paintings outside in the landscape. Some of my very first oil paintings were outside in the landscape in Italy, actually. Ty and I, a friend of mine, were lucky enough to study abroad in Italy for a semester in undergrad, and so that kind of instilled an early love of painting outside. And then I spent the next couple summers at Chautauqua School of Art in upstate New York studying with a painter named Stanley Lewis, and his enthusiasm for painting is contagious and very dynamic, and he really tries to paint everything he sees, from the grass at his feet to the treetops and telephone poles and wires. And so I think that was really influential in my kind of introduction to loving painting and painting outside. And I still probably am my happiest self when I'm sitting outside drawing or painting.
So what's your typical day-to-day studio or workspace?
So I live in a row home in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, so it's pretty tall and narrow, and my studio is on the top floor, so it's the third floor and kind of feels a little bit like a bird nest or up high, so I have this aerial view of the street and the park across the street. And I have a variety of materials and kind of workstations throughout the space. It's kind of like the size of a bedroom, basically. And I do a lot of work in there. I also do draw and paint outside. We spend a lot of time in Mount Gretna, Pennsylvania in the summer, and my husband runs a landscape painting program for college-age students called Mount Gretna School of Art. And Mount Gretna is a very kind of magical, wonderful little place, and so I do a lot of drawing and painting there in the summertime as well. But my day-to-day practice is kind of ebbs and flows with the season, because I do work full-time as a professor. During the chaos of the semester, I don't get as much time to work as I might like, but I do try to schedule in blocks of time throughout the week to be in the studio amidst all the other pressures of work-life balance.
Can you describe what you've been working on here at Azule and how the residency is helping you accomplish that?
Sure. So I was really excited to come to Azule because I really wanted some time to focus on my artwork and have a little bit of a break from the normal day-to-day chaos, and kind of transition between the semester and the summer by focusing on having some time to think about my work. So I really started to kind of try to figure out what was going on here in the landscape. And these mountains are very lush and green and dense. And so it's taken me some time to kind of figure out where I've landed and what I'm looking at. So I've been doing drawing and painting in the landscape, just basically in the region surrounding the house, because the house at Azule seems to be like the focal point. It's so quirky and interesting and focused around the spiral and lots of rainbows. So I've kind of been starting to make little composite drawings, I would say, of taking different plants and pieces from the landscape and then almost collaging them in paint together. And I've also been working on a larger, well, for me, a thread painting, which is kind of a more involved, labor-intensive process. Well, here at Azule, one of the things I've been working on is this thread painting, and I make these paintings with a combination of a sort of golden paint. It's called fluid acrylic, which kind of can be applied similarly to, well, it looks like watercolor, but it's light, fast, and permanent on the linen. And then this embroidery, cotton embroidery thread. And I've been making thread paintings for about the last 12 or 13 years. I started making these paintings when my son was born, and I found that the process of large-scale oil painting, which I had been previously doing, was kind of like more than I could handle at that time. I'd be working on a big painting, and then he'd wake up from a nap, and I had a paint on me, and I was like, this isn't working. So that kind of big shift in my life kind of caused me to re-examine my studio practice, and I turned back to this format of stitching. And I learned the basics of counted cross stitch when I was a kid. Grew up in the Midwest. My family was really into making things. My dad was a woodworker. My mom made, all of our, lots of clothes she sewed for us. And so I learned the value of do-it-yourself from them. And so I found that I could kind of create a rich set of marks with thread, and the resulting thread paintings kind of are a way of making a painting that felt more my own than the oil paintings ever did. And so it was a really nice kind of shift in my work as a result of this big life change of having a child. So usually I have a drawing or some kind of work on paper. This is colored pencil and ink, where this becomes the sort of basis for the thread painting. And so you can see how it's kind of being translated, and I'm kind of working across the whole page trying to build it up to create this painting with thread. This particular drawing is from a mountain in Flagstaff, Arizona, where my good friend Heidi Leitzke lives. This is the mountain you can see from her backyard. This is her mountain, otherwise known as Eldon. So I've been working on this in between kind of going out and painting. I would say this isn't the main thing I've been doing here. Primarily I've been trying to kind of, like I said, figure out what I'm looking at here in this landscape. So kind of early on I started with this larger ink wash painting that's on the easel, kind of looking at these daisies near and far through the mass of branches and leaves. And then these are the paintings I've been working on just in the last couple days. And so, for example, this one's probably the closest to being finished. We have the mountain range that is right outside the window here, so I could see it from outside. These plants that are here over to the left, I don't know exactly what they're called, maybe yucca. These leaves were back over near the creek. This plant right here is just here in the studio. So I'm pulling these components from different places on the property and then compositing them together in a composition. And so that's what I'm working on in these two pieces as well. This butterfly kept landing on my drawing and my leg one of the first days we were here. The dandelion is up in the driveway to Azule. This is the beginning of the little house that Camille lives in. And so I'm really excited about where this is going, and a little bit sad that I have to leave and go home in the next couple days. But it feels really good to have built up this creative energy to kind of launch me into the summer and keep making when I get home.